We've all heard of Harriet Tubman and her work leading hundreds of enslaved African Americans to freedom along the Underground Railroad. But have you ever heard of the reverse Underground Railroad? Yes, it's just as horrific as it sounds. For nearly a decade in the early 1800s, a gang operation out of Joe Johnson's Tavern on the Maryland-Delaware line would kidnap freed black slaves and then sell them back into slavery during a heinous human trafficking operation. This is a brief history of Patti Cannon, America's first female serial killer. As always, this episode of A Brief History contains graphic content and may not be suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. Martha Patti Cannon was born sometime in 1760, and not much, if anything, is known about her young life. It is, however, known that she was widowed somewhere in the mid-1820s by her husband, Farmer Jesse Cannon. There are rumors that Jesse's death was mysterious, and it is thought that Cannon had poisoned him. It's said that Cannon worked as both a barmaid and a prostitute, and had dreams of opening up her own brothel. Unfortunately for Cannon, it is also said that she had such a terrible personality that she was frequently unable to attract any clientele, and her dreams of becoming a madam seemed to be over before they had a chance to begin. Patti Cannon is said to have had 2 children, but notably she was known to have a daughter of an unknown name who would eventually become complicit in Patti's crimes. Patti's daughter married a blacksmith at a young age, and it would later be revealed that the blacksmith, Henry Brereton, was kidnapping black people for sale in the slave trade. Eventually, Brereton went to prison and was hanged for his crimes, leaving Patti's daughter a widow. After being widowed, Patti's daughter married again, this time to a man named Joe Johnson, who would become Patti Cannon's right-hand man. Joe Johnson ran a tavern just a few miles down the road from Patti's homestead, and both of the locations would become the epicenter of their trafficking gang. The gang they assembled comprised of both white and black men. The black members would be used as decoys to lure victims close enough to abduct them, and the white members would move the victims, hiding them at the tavern or at Patti's home during the interim. In addition to human trafficking, the Cannon-Johnson gang, as they were called, were said to set their sights on other targets as well. It is said the gang murdered several high-profile and high-wealth clients of the tavern, mostly slave traders as well, to steal their money and their horses. It is said that the tavern had a special room hidden in the attic, specifically for holding their victims. During the height of her crimes, it is said that Patti Cannon had kidnapped 3 times as many slaves as had escaped on the Underground Railroad. The number of abducted men, women, and children is said to potentially be in the thousands, leaving Patti Cannon to be known as the wickedest woman in America. Men, women, and children were all kidnapped as part of Cannon's slave trade, and the group was known for kidnapping freed folks from free states and transporting them to slave states. The gang was exceptionally profitable, allegedly making hundreds of dollars, or thousands in today's standards, on each abduction. The group ran like clockwork, abducting and selling people across Delaware, Maryland, Pennsylvania, and more, until they began to be noticed in the early 1820s. In 1822, the gang was finally indicted, and Joe Johnson, owner of the tavern and son-in-law to Patti Cannon, was sentenced to the pillory, better known as the stocks, a tool used for punishment by public humiliation. His head and hands were secured by the wooden platform, and Johnson was lashed in the public square 39 times. Cannon and other members of the gang were charged along with Johnson, but somehow evaded prosecution, leaving them to continue their work seemingly unhindered. For most of their operation, the gang seemed immune to run-ins with the law. People were hesitant or unwilling to report missing freed men and women. But in 1826, the mayor of Philadelphia and the governor of Pennsylvania began offering rewards of up to $500 for information regarding the disappearances and kidnappings of freed blacks from across the East Coast. Witnesses to the gang's horrific crimes were found slowly over the next few years and happily testified against the ruthless gang, putting more of the members behind bars. In 1829, it is said that a tenant farmer on the property of Patti Cannon was plowing his fields and made a horrific discovery. The bodies of 4 black people, 3 of them being children, were discovered just under the surface in the fields. Was Patti Cannon a murderer in addition to being a human trafficker? Patti Cannon was indicted on 4 counts of murder for an infant female, 2 male children, and an adult male. It is later stated by a witness that one of the murdered children had been purchased as a slave by Patti Cannon herself, and was frequently used as a decoy in the crimes of the Cannon-Johnson gang. During her time in prison, Patti Cannon confessed to over 10 murders of her kidnapping victims, and it is disputed as to whether Cannon died awaiting trial or was tried and sentenced before her death. It is said that she was around 70 years old when she died while in prison. Patti Cannon was buried on jail property, but in the 20th century, her body was exhumed and moved for the placement of a parking lot. Her skull is also on long-term loan to the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C. It is known that Patti Cannon's story is horrific, but also exaggerated. We may never know if the Cannon-Johnson gang had 30 members or 60 members, if they had kidnapped hundreds of people or thousands of people. But either way, Patti's legacy has cemented her as one of America's most evil people. Thank you for watching this episode of A Brief History. Thank you to my patrons for supporting this series every month. You are so appreciated. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more true crime and The Sims every week. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time.